I do not like this character at all. Are you kidding me? So dumb. He is so dumb. I can't with this man. I can't. Warren is also on my ick list. You could go with Johnny. This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. Hello, darlings, and welcome to CareOffBook. It's me, Care Darling, and today we are talking about Meet Me in St. Louis. If you've been following this channel for a while, you probably are like, what the heck? We voted for this musical a while back. And I remember watching the musical and thinking to myself, this feels like it should happen around the holidays. So I went to like my little script and notes to see like, oh, what was it I wrote about this? And I had one line, Johnny is trash. So I went ahead, I rewatched it, and now we're going to be talking about it. Darlings, don't forget to continue voting on what musicals we discuss. And all right, let's just get into it. So, Meet Me in St. Louis, the 1944 Judy Garland classic, directed by Vincente Minnelli, filled with cozy Americana, gorgeous colors, and some of the most memorable musical numbers ever filmed. And yet, with all the beauty, I have a lot to say about this musical. Meet Me in St. Louis follows the Smith family in 1903 as they prepare for the 1904 World's Fair. The story isn't driven by a villain or a big dramatic plot. It's really a slice-of-life family movie about seasons changing, sisters falling in and out of crushes, and everyone panicking over the potential of them moving. And of course, we get Judy Garland at her most luminous. That MGM glow, the soft focus, the velvet lighting. This film actually sparked the Judy Garland glow that became her signature. Costumes were by Irene Sharaff. Now, she is the powerhouse behind the looks of Cleopatra, Funny Girl, Hello Dolly, West Side Story, The King and I, Brigadoon, and An American Paris. She's truly one of the greatest costume designers to ever touch a movie musical, and her work is a big reason those films feel so iconic today. Now, you darlings are going to think that I'm crazy because watching this musical makes me think that this family deserves their own reality show. You've got dramatic sisters, petty fights, romance disasters, questionable advice from every direction, and a brother who is basically forgotten, ignored, and only mentioned when it's funny. The Smith sisters are serving full keeping up with the St. Louis energy, Rose anxiously waiting for a proposal over a long-distance phone call, Esther chasing a boy who barely knows she exists, Tootie terrorizing the neighborhood like it's her personal playground. Like, am I crazy? Because I would totally follow this family. I would love to know, like, where they get their clothes, how they do their makeup, and just wanting to see, like, what their life is like. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli actually fell in love making Meet Me in St. Louis, which is wild considering Judy almost didn't take the role at all. She didn't want to play a teenager again, and she felt she'd done her time in pigtails and was trying to transition into more adult roles, but the script, the music, and Minnelli's quiet, artistic way of directing won her over. Minnelli knew exactly how to light her, frame her, and bring out a softness she hadn't been allowed to show on screen before, and Judy later said she felt truly seen by him for the first time. Their chemistry behind the camera is a huge part of why the movie feels so warm and intimate. And thank goodness that they fell in love, because now we have Liza Minnelli.
Told that I had to pick one film. I think it would be Meet Me in St. Louis, because that's where my father met my mother, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that movie, so I guess that's my favorite.
Now, the movie showcases their story by each season, so I'm actually going to go through each season. I find this funny. Like I said, to me, they make me think of a reality show, and here I am saying like, oh, in this season. So we start with summer, and we kick things off with full dinner mayhem. No one can agree on whether the ketchup is sweet, sour, thick, or possibly a health hazard. There's a lot of talk about Warren calling in long distance and possibly proposing to Rose, who is the older sister. Everyone believes that this is going to happen, and it's definitely the big talk, and the only person who doesn't know is the dad. By the time they make it to dinner, the telephone rings and almost everyone is practically vibrating with anticipation. And guess what? He doesn't even propose. No, he just called from New York. Now, long-distance calls were huge back then, expensive, rare, and dramatic. So the movie plays this moment for comedy, and it absolutely works. Meanwhile, Esther is busy pining over John Truitt, one of the most forgettable love interests in musical history. She's dropping hints, turning off lights for romantic ambiance, doing everything she can, but homeboy's just not getting it. I mean, at one point he tells her that she smells like his grandma. Like, this guy is just a walking beige flag. There is a fun visual detail. If you notice, the two older sisters are redheads by Minnelli's choice. In the book, they were brunettes, but he wanted a painterly balance against Judy's dark hair. We get the sweet summer numbers, Skip to My Lou, and Over the Banister is fine. And I like that Tootie is slightly off-key with Judy with Under the Bamboo Tree. It makes it feel like a real family moment rather than a perfectly polished MGM showcase, but they're not the emotional centerpiece here. Now, the Trolley Song, I think it is the most beautiful, perfect movie musical numbers that has ever been filmed. It's joyful, melodic, and so cinematic, like it almost sparkles. Hugh Martin, who wrote the song with Ralph Blaine, said he was inspired by a little story he once heard about someone falling head over heels for a stranger on a trolley, and he couldn't get that romantic image out of his head. The song came together shockingly fast. Martin said he wrote most of it in a single afternoon, and Judy recorded it in one take. Yes, one. MGM even built a full moving trolley set just for the number, and Minnelli staged it like a Technicolor daydream. Every clang, clang, clang. I mean, it feels like the sound of teenage hope exploding out of Esther, and it's impossible not to smile through the whole thing. I think that's something I do appreciate about this musical is that it doesn't feel like, okay, we just move from number to number and it has to be perfect. Like, there's a naturalness and fluidity to it that I appreciate. For example, you actually see Judy and the little sister Tootie prepare to sing in front of their friends. So it feels more natural, and in a way it feels like we're there with them. Now we're in autumn, which is the Halloween section. And if you watch this on TV growing up, some stations actually cut parts of it, which is why it always felt oddly short. The full version is actually darker. The kids are out here building bonfire in the middle of the street, unsupervised, and everyone acts like this is perfectly normal neighborhood fun. I mean, as a former nanny, no, absolutely not. And then there's Tootie, who basically is the early blueprint for Wednesday Addams. She's morbid, delighted by chaos, and fully unhinged in the most entertaining way. She throws flour in a man's face, becomes convinced she's killed him, and then smiles when the kids called her the most horrible. This child kind of scares me. Margaret O'Brien, our beloved tiny menace, won a Juvenile Academy Award for this role. Now, I think that Minnelli was trying to go for the anti-Shirley Temple because when he was creating this musical, he didn't want to be, creating another cliche kind of musical. He was trying to go for something a little different. As for the plot, we see Rose is no longer with Warren. Who knows why? Maybe the long distance thing finally fizzled, and she immediately sets her sights on this colonel who clearly couldn't care less about her. But Rose and Esther keep romanticizing these men anyway, spinning these lukewarm interactions into full love stories. It's definitely one of those, oh my gosh, he looked at me once, he wants my children. Then we get some top-tier drama. Tootie claims John Truitt tried to kill her, which did not happen, even remotely. She actually fell off a trolley, which we find out later, but Esther doesn't ask questions. She marches over and attacks him because that, my darlings, is real sisterhood. She straight up bit him. I mean, that's wild. And again, I really do appreciate this, right? Because she's so head over heels for her neighbor, but get in the way of sisterhood, it's like it doesn't matter. This is something I think is kind of weird though, is that once she realizes the truth, she does go apologize to John, and then this is when he kisses her, and it's like, maybe John likes a little crazy, and that's what made him finally be like, I like her. Like, okay. Winter is where the film finally drops its cozy charm and goes straight for the heart. The dad announces the family is moving to New York, and everyone immediately falls apart. The girls are devastated, the mother is stunned. As a modern viewer, I get why he wants to go to New York. I mean, it means opportunity, right? But for these girls, whose entire worlds revolve around community, routine, and teenage romance, New York might as well be exile. Also, keep in mind that this family is wealthy. What would the women do, right? Like, their whole purpose is to get married. So in a way, it's like you can understand why they're always like fantasizing and romanticizing all of these things. In fact, in this section, they're excited about the dance. I found it interesting that when it came to the girls finding romance, they support each other. But when the brother likes someone, it's made fun of. So Rose doesn't have a date for the dance. Warren is actually going with someone named Lucy, and Lon, which is actually short for Lorenzo, forgot to ask Lucy, and somehow he ends up taking his sister Rose. Now, I'm part of the side that thinks, like, yeah, it is weird that your brother has to take you to the dance. I also have to, like, check myself that going alone, especially back then, was very faux pas, right? So if you wanted to enjoy the dance, who cares who you go with, right? And they also have dance cards, so it's not like you're dancing with your brother the whole night. And can we take a moment to appreciate the corset scene? Ugh, it's so stunning. Now, in the early 1900s, the corsets weren't actually meant to suffocate women. They were designed to support posture and create that iconic S curve. But fun fact, the cast joked that those tight laces nearly made a few people lightheaded during filming. Then we get Judy in the red dress, except it wasn't red at all. The gown was a deep burgundy velvet, but Technicolor transformed it into that vivid red we see on screen. They used specific dyes and lighting tricks so the color would pop perfectly without bleeding on film. Definitely my favorite dress in this film. Now you're probably like, oh my gosh, Johnny's gonna love seeing her. Guess what? Johnny can't go to the dance. You darlings, I'm trying to hold it in. I do not like this character at all. Are you kidding me? When he tells her on the day of the dance, oh, I can't go. And it's like, why? And he's like, well, I was playing basketball. So you mean to tell me that you had your suit go get tailored, and instead of looking to make sure that it's opened in order to pick it up, all this stuff, like this man is not even doing the bare minimum. And then, of course, I almost said Judy. Of course, Esther's like, oh my gosh, what about your dad's tux? And he's like, that was my dad's. He's so dumb. He is so dumb. I can't with this man. I can't. All right, back to the dance. Remember I was talking about dance cards? Well, women use these little booklets to schedule dances with different partners throughout the night. Even if you arrived with someone, you still danced with others. It was basically the original social networking. Originally, the sisters planned to sabotage Lucy with a horrible dance card, only for Lucy to show up and be an absolute gem, saying she knows Warren would have wanted to be with Rose and she'd be perfectly happy dancing with Lon. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting so mad because then it's like, well, why didn't Warren just ask Rose in the first place? It's like Justin Bieber, Selena, and Haley all over, where it's like, why are you trying to make Lucy the bad guy? And you notice the girls were totally going to go after Lucy. Lucy, you are a gem. You are, listen, enjoy Lorenzo, brother Lon. Like, I think she's making a good choice. Okay, Warren is also on my ick list. You could go with Johnny. So Esther ends up taking the cursed dance book instead, and this whole sequence is a reminder of how underrated Judy Garland's comedic timing is. Her delivery is razor sharp, and you really see it shine here. But she was the full package: hilarious, expressive, a brilliant dancer, and such a natural actress. Another musical she's in that I feel showcases this is Easter Parade, and yes, I did an episode on this. Oh my gosh, by the way, so in case you don't know, the grandpa is the one that takes Esther to the dance. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first was watching this and the grandpa's like, well, there's a tux that, he was like talking about it. I thought that he was going to offer his tux to Johnny, but no, he was like, how about me? Truly the upgrade she deserved. Johnny does eventually show up in a proper suit and dances with her outside, which just annoys me because suddenly he has a tux and he's figured it out. Like, after all of that stunt he caused, like, sir, the bar is so low and somehow you still tripped. He does propose, but we never actually see it. We only get Esther's reaction afterward, and she's not glowing or giddy at all. She looks shaken, almost upset, and I think that's really telling. Now, I can understand that Esther's probably crying because, they're going to be moving, and he's not going to be the neighbor next door. But the fact that we don't get the proposal, we don't see it, I have to assume that it was horrible because everything this guy says is just awful. And when they continue to talk, he's like, Yeah, I'm not going to become an engineer. I'll just graduate and start a job and provide for this family. This man has no brain. He does not understand how anything works. And she's like, yeah, yeah. Like they're holding on to a dream. And I'm just like, this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. The movie does redeem itself after this because Judy Garland's most legendary moments happens. She sings, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." The original lyrics were shockingly bleak. We're talking lines like, "It may be your last." Judy refused to sing that to a child, so they rewrote it into a bittersweet classic we know today. I do love the song and scene, like it aches with longing, fear, and that universal wish for home to stay the same. And just when your heart is tender, Judy runs outside and destroys the snowman. Beautifully sculpted snowman, I might add. In this burst of grief and panic, it breaks Esther, and the dad ends up deciding that they aren't going to move after all. The father wakes the entire house in the middle of the night to announce they're staying. Now, I will say, if my husband woke me up just to tell me good news, I would have been like, really? You couldn't tell me in the morning, like, Merry Christmas, good news. But listen, I get it. The Smiths, they work in a different way. After all of that, spring arrives like a breath of fresh air. The white dresses, the parasols, the soft glow of the lighting. It's giving put on your Sunday clothes. Now, listen, I know the musical hasn't even happened yet, but the fact that it is the same costumer, I think is really interesting. The sisters finally feel light again, and as they make their way to the fair, the whole film lifts them. Also, Warren aggressively tells Rose that they're getting married, and when the fair lights switch on, it's Minnelli's quiet visual metaphor for everything falling back into place. Almost the entire real 1904 World's Fair was torn down after it ended. Today, only the art museum and the birdcage remain. So when Tootie asks, they'll never tear it down, right? That's actually a little awkward. Meet Me in St. Louis isn't one of my favorite musicals. Like, I adore the costumes, Judy's performance, and several of the songs. The Trolley Song, The Boy Next Door is fine. And of course, I mean, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Like, genuinely love those. Judy is radiant, her comedic timing is wildly underrated, and the film is undeniably beautiful to look at. But as a whole, the story doesn't fully grab me. The men are written so weakly that I can't root for these romances, and the big emotional stakes, like choosing whether or not to stay in St. Louis, I mean, they don't feel that compelling from a modern point of view. That's just my take on Meet Me in St. Louis. Like, I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you enjoy this musical? And what parts stand out the most to you? Anyways, darlings, that's it for today's episode. It just shows that not all musicals are winners, at least not in my book. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, all right? Now, if you're still with me by the end of this episode, don't forget to put a Ferris wheel in the comments section because I'm thinking of the fair that they're going to, right? If you enjoy talking about musicals and performances, first off, don't forget to vote. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, darling. Clang, clang, clang with the trolley.